Hello and welcome to Third Eye Thinkers. I am your host, Michelle Welch.
Hi, I'm your host, Megan Benanti. Thanks for joining us today. We're so glad to be back with you guys.
I know, by popular demand.
Absolutely. We've taken a break. It was about a year there that we took off, and we were planning to jump back in January, I think, but we got sidetracked with quarantine and everything else that's happened.
So, yay, we're back.
Yeah, we're back, and we thought this would be a perfect time to come back into service and see how we could help people out during this time.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about uncertainty and dealing with that and finding hope in all of this kind of chaos at the moment.
Right. There's so much going on. And so we've been talking through pretty much all of it, talking to each other off and on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I've been to a couple, at least one, if not two, we've read for each other.
Oh, yeah, and that was really fun.
Yeah, we've read for each other, and then I went to a healing with Megan about, was that a week ago?
A week ago, yeah.
Is time just so weird lately?
It's really weird.
Yeah. So I went to a healing since we're talking about healing tonight, I went to a healing with Megan, and I have to tell you guys, it was the most amazing experience I've had in a really long time. Besides the fact that I probably just drooled all over the table because I passed out, like in a good way, right?
You weren't drooling.
Yeah, I didn't drool, but I did, who knows where all I went. And you know when you have these really great moments when you're dreaming or you're astral traveling or whatever it is, or lucid dreaming, and then you want to tell people how great it is, and you wake up, and you're just like, you know that story you want to tell people, and it's so amazing. And then when you tell it, it's kind of like, well, I guess she had to be there. But she was there. And so I didn't have to even tell it perfectly, right, Megan? Because you were like, oh, no, I know.
It was a win-win in both directions because I tend to get pretty tuned in when I'm working with someone on the table for healing. And so I was connecting with her, and she was envisioning the same things I was envisioning, and it was really powerful and like out of this world. It was definitely a top-notch experience for both of us, which was cool. And that was the same way when we read for each other. It's like, it blows the roof off, which is so fun.
Yeah, so I'd say, you guys, seriously, we both do healings. I will tell you that if you haven't been to a healing with Megan, go. It's, first of all, the setting is just beyond beautiful, and it's quite the experience. When we were doing our podcast, Megan, I still have the picture of when I had been in the car before the podcast, and I was screaming with a kidney stone, like screaming. I went in, and Megan just did work on my solar plexus, kind of sacral area, just sent energy while we were waiting for the podcast to start, waiting in the waiting area. And went on, and you cannot tell at all from those pictures or from that video at all that I was in pain. The pain was gone for that 30, 45 minutes. But when I left, it came back. And of course I had to go, and it was 7 millimeter kidney stone.
She went straight to the ER.
Straight to the ER, but I was fine throughout the whole podcast because she worked on me. So she's, when I say she's an incredible healer, you are beyond incredible. It was such an experience. Not only was it for my physical well-being, but it was also just very much a spiritual experience. I think that both you and I have stepped more into that since we did our podcast before, just in this past year. Would you say that?
Yes, I would say we've both had a lot of growth. And, Michelle is sweet to toot my horn, but she's a rock star healer herself. And truly the person that I go to and trust for all of my healings. She takes me to other worlds. And I can't describe how wonderful it is. I do recommend checking it out. But, when we talk about this kind of thing too. There's also a give and take of energy that occurs in a healing process, no matter what type of healing you're getting, whether that's Reiki or acupuncture or card reading or whatever else is out there. Your energy also has to be open to receiving and open to shifting. And we know that it takes building trust. And that's part of something like when we work with a physical body, part of our journey with that body is to build trust. And so we can build a deeper connection and you can release more. And so that is part of that process, that it's not just us, doing our jobs well. Part of it is you doing your job well and being able to let go and grow in that spiritual moment.
And I am just typing now. If someone wants to ask us a question a little later in the show, or we're open for questions regarding healings, or also if you'd like to get a reading, I'm typing that now. So go ahead and start sending those in if you do. I don't know how many we'll be able to get to. If you do have questions, we might be able to answer those later. Megan or myself or both of us might be able to answer those just in the comments later on if we don't get to them during the show. But also, I wanted to comment that I do, and I think you touched on this, that I do believe whatever modality, whether you're on a massage table getting a Reiki healing, we don't do massage, we're not massage therapists, but an energy work healing, or whether I'm reading cards or Megan's reading cards, we're on the same page on this. I know that we see both of those as healings, forms of healing. Would you agree with that?
Totally.
Yeah. I'm just going to finish typing this. If you'd like to get a reading, please comment.
Okay.
I'm not good at doing all of this at the same time. So
No,
I'm
that's
just
okay.
if it's misspelled, you guys, that's why. Y'all get the point. Okay. So just comment if you have a general question or a specific question for a reading. But if you also have a question about us or the work we do or what types of healings we do, we did want to specifically tonight I think, talk about kind of what the elephant in the room, I would call it, the things going on in the world, just to touch on it because, and what I really wanted to say is that I believe that we are all one and that we are a collective, but I do believe that our collective is very much hurting right now. And there is a need for a lot of healing. And I don't think that is going to happen overnight. So I do take a very strong stance. If you follow me on Facebook in any way, I do take a very strong stance for those who do feel that they have not been treated fairly and they've been treated unjustly for so long in our country here in the United States. And for the events of this past weekend and this past week, for me, I have been very affected by it. And of course, as a woman of white color, I can't even begin to imagine how people of color have been affected. And so I just want to send out my condolences and healing and anything I can. And those who've been in my store and those friends of mine have just said, keep speaking, Michelle, keep speaking, even though clearly I wear white skin. And I'm okay with saying that because I've just been told to keep saying it because everyone knows where I stand. Here at Soultopia, I will say we have an altar that you can light candles, and Megan and I have a candle tonight for peace, for unity, but I also think for justice.
Yeah. Well, and I was really tapping into that collective consciousness the last couple days, and I don't think that I'm alone in this. The riots for me actually just triggered incredible sadness. And I had been processing this before we lost George. I'm a big follower of Oprah. I love my Super Soul Conversations and have been listening to her podcast since it started. And the more that I have watched Oprah, the more that I have understood a deeper level of connection and my history as a white person in the country. And I began reading books that connected for me in deeper ways to understand Black history and Black culture. And one of those was The Bluest Eye, which is pretty intense because it's about an African American girl that really truly believed that if she had blue eyes, that her world would be okay. And I've been thinking along this path for a while and grieving what we've built and how it's not been okay. Yeah. So for me, just the last few days, the collective consciousness has been really heavy, and I have found, as someone who doesn't, I feel pretty guarded a lot of times, that I don't pick up a lot of junk, but I have felt this sadness intensely, and I am just trying to process through it the best I can and still work with my clients and help my family and take care of everything that needs to be done. So don't feel that you're alone in this, because we are all processing it. And as a white person, I have to say sometimes I don't know what to say. I'm afraid of putting my foot in my mouth.
Yeah, and it's interesting. A friend of mine, a really, really close friend of mine, I'll call her Dr. Val. Dr. Val comes in our store often. She's from Chicago. She'll tell you her neighborhood was basically burned to the ground a couple days ago, and I won't go into too much detail without asking her permission. But Dr. Val is going to be running for office, and man, we've been talking a lot. And Dr. Val said the biggest and most important thing, and actually Erica Robinson said this on So What last night on the podcast. She said, Michelle, even though you are a white woman, she said, the worst thing you could do is stop talking. She said, because that's been the problem, is people don't say, don't ask. They don't talk about it. And that's why it's been so pervasive, that we're scared to say. And yeah, we are a lot of times scared to say, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I put my foot in my mouth? And we might, but at least they know our heart, right. And at least they know your heart. I know your heart, Megan. They know my heart in my store. And so that's why I wanted to bring it up. I'm not going to shy away from it. We're not going to shy away from it. We're going to say, we're going to speak about it. And we're here to do what we can and to not abide any form of, for me, any form of racism whatsoever. And to do whatever I can and to ask those questions that are hard for me to ask. To say, is this the right thing? And I will text Valerie and I say, Dr. Val, I'll say, am I on the right track here? And I will and so I encourage everybody to just ask. If you have not walked in those shoes, you can ask. And this is not comparable, and I am not saying it is comparable, but I do the same thing with somebody who's ill. If somebody's had an illness, and sometimes I might feel uncomfortable, or they've had a loss, a death in the family. Sometimes you feel uncomfortable with that too, and sometimes you want to shy away because you don't know the right thing to ask, right?
Yeah, it's awkward.
So, and Megan, you've had some losses, and would you want people to shy away, or would you want? No, it's fine. What would you want them to do?
I'm comfortable talking about anything.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want people to avoid you.
No, definitely not. Yeah, it's like, let's just get it out in the open and deal with it. And I think that's what this is about. And there's hard lessons that are coming with this, and with the riots. But the riots make me sad, but I don't feel like I'm not upset. I don't feel blame. I don't feel shame about that. I feel like this is the world erupting. And, you can't reconstruct something if you don't deconstruct it first.
Very good point.
And, this world the world that we know has to blow up in some ways for us to rebuild into something better. Mm-hmm. And our foundation has been shaky. And so we're going to end up rebuilding this. Yeah. We've got some challenging times ahead of us. This is not going to be a fast rebuild for us to do it properly. But I really am just keeping my prayers and intentions in the right space. And that's something, for you all listening, part of why you're here is like, how do I deal with this? How do I process this? And so, you know, it is setting your intentions as we move in through this moment. One of the things I was looking into today, I've been reading Untamed by Glennon Doyle, and great book, highly recommend it. And it's interesting, I was in the beginning, because I was like, oh, we don't have much in common. We had very different upbringings. But wow, you can't not have something in common with her if you're a woman, because she really taps into everything. But one of the things she was saying is that to live in your imagination, to move towards your imagination. And we think about that because, you know, so much of our when we're discontent or disconnected from something, it's a lot of times because we're not living the life we imagined we'd be living. And so where can your imagination take you in a situation like this? You know, how good could this world look? And I really think that the more as a collective consciousness that we begin tapping into, like, how awesome and how great this could be with equality and shared space and ideology and belief systems, where can we go with this?
Right. Yeah, and I think you said something earlier too, that you know, it takes time. You know, when you deconstruct and then you reconstruct, it's not going to be a really fast process. And maybe before we had too fast of a process, we thought, okay, we've done the work, and no, we never really did. You know, and so that's why things never really were better. People thought, oh yeah, okay, we took care of that, it's done. Well, no, it was never done. That work was never really done. It was never really reconstructed. I thought about, it was interesting, I keep bringing up Erica Robinson from last night. Well, just because it was powerful, and a lot of people have mentioned how powerful she was. You know, Harvard educated, and then we grew up in Harlem, Harvard educated, and then and reads Lenormand cards, and how beautifully she brought in the cards, whatever system it is, into how we can use those, third-eyed thinking, in troubled times. And so she read with the cards and how they perfectly told the story of where we can go. And I love the fact that, because there was a time at which, when everything started happening it was Corona at the time, then they changed it, you know, to COVID-19 or whatever, but it was Corona. And I just thought, you know, I don't know if I can read. I don't know where I am. What am I going to read about? You know, I mean, really, I'm going to read about somebody and their boyfriend. I mean, you know, it's just too serious. And then it was just beautiful how she showed that you can actually use what we work with for healing, and to really see what we can do with going forward during troubled times.
Yeah.
And I think that our work we're doing, whether it be, again, working through our cards, working with Lenormand, whatever system you use, you know, throwing runes, whatever you're doing, or healing, you know, with your method or with my method, or whatever it is, whatever energy work it is, it can be for really troubled times. I think it's more than ever needed. Not to where we shut down, but, and you texted me. You know, you texted me a couple of days ago, and you said, we're needed more than ever. And I thought, that is so true. It's not time for us to, you know, curl in on ourselves. This is time for us to be needed more than ever, you know, to come out and help, right? Yeah, so that was really powerful and really meaningful to me. So, and even then when we're down, as if we're really wanting to heal the collective, we need to be available.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, I noticed during quarantine, I'm a busybody. Michelle is too. We're both ones, and we're like initiators of energy. And, you know, I was like, oh, okay, well, no going out. Okay, I'm going to paint my office and garden. And, you know, I was like painting the house and just like went crazy doing stuff. And it wasn't really until the last couple of weeks of quarantine that I slowed down. I took like some technology courses to help myself because I'm pretty slow in that area. And it was interesting because I felt like that was a long time coming for me to learn that curve. But when it began to slow down, I allowed myself to really like take the last 2 weeks of quarantine off and just be and sit and connect with nature. And all of a sudden, this calm set through me. And it was like, I don't need to do all this. I spent a lot of time doing what I felt I needed to do to grow my business. And what I came to realize was that I love what I do just the way it is. And I don't need to grow my business because society has an expectation that bigger is better and more is more. And it's like, no, what I'm doing works for people, and I don't necessarily need to be anything more than that. And so a real sense of calm and being okay came back to me. And I started reading my cards again for myself, which I don't do a whole lot. But it was like, I was like, oh, what do I need to know about buying an iPad so I can edit my videos and that kind of thing? And it said no. And I was like, no, it was totally going to be a distraction for me. And what I need to focus on is my creative energy and being artistic and, and doing what I do. And so there is a sense, I think, that a lot of people came out of quarantine and this, like, what do I do next? And maybe part of that is just to be, because, in the last week, our whole focus has shifted.
Quickly.
Yeah, quickly. 2 weeks ago, we were thinking about dying in our homes of disease, and now we're looking at rioting in the streets and no social distancing. And it's like, holy cow, what is coming next? And we have to be able to ebb and flow with this. And not everybody deals with change the same. But I will say change is difficult for everyone.
Right.
So
I think that's why we're seeing, I keep talking to a lot of people, is that why we're seeing, or that's why I believe we're seeing so much, I was saying this before George, before George Floyd. And then actually before, and I don't want to pronounce his name wrong, but before the horrific, even before that, the horrific a shooting of the man that was jogging. That actually got to me horribly too. That was just a horrible situation. That happened. And, but I was, even before those incidents, I was just saying how much that we really needed to maybe just be a little bit and reassess what we're doing and what's our place in the world, and what is it we're here to do. And I think Megan and I kind of landed in the same space. And that's why we felt it was more than ever the time to do the show again. Is we landed in a space that we really are here to heal, through whatever modality that is. And you were saying something before that I was going to touch on, and I kind of lost my train of thought because I kind of got taken back to that horrific scene, and I don't want to replay it because it's so traumatic for other people, but of that truck driving down the road after that man, which was just horrific. And we do, I saw something that said, don't forget their names. And I do feel there was event after event after event that just really woke us up, to the injustices in the world. So there's a lot of people, just to change gears a little bit, there's a lot of people who, I know what it was. It sent us into, we had been in a lot of fear and uncertainty, and there were already people really angry. And I was talking to people about that. They were really angry. Did y'all notice just all over Facebook, before any of that, before any of the racial discrimination became so blatant in our face again, and we could not deny it, but just with the COVID, there was a lot of anger, just a lot of it. Everybody, so much division. And behind anger, a lot of times, not always, is fear.
Absolutely.
Right? There's fear. And so now there's even more, right? So there's this anger that we're dealing with. And behind that, I always say, look at the fear. What are we afraid of? What is going on? And I think that's when we're healing, we need to look at those things. We need to look at, what is going on behind the anger. There are other things, certainly, but what is it? And we need to get to the crux of that, because especially let's say I'm talking about myself, and I'm really mad about something, and I'm really, really, really angry for no reason. I'm just wanting to fight with people. Why? Why is it? And what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? And so we said tonight we were going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about, are we willing to move into some healing? And so I thought maybe we could give some of what we do, not as advertisements, but just a little bit to kind of say, we acknowledge that we're all a little concerned right now. We're all a little fearful. We're all a little uncertain. I think pretty much everybody would agree with that.
Yeah.
And it does seem that we're living in a divided world, a very divisive, lines drawn. There don't seem to be a lot of people in the middle. There don't, I would say. There seems to be a lot of it's this way or it's this way, and I'm not sure that's such a bad thing. I thought at first it was, but I'm not sure if it is anymore. I think that we're going to find a way to the middle once you said it's deconstructed. Right?
Yeah, and it sounds like people are becoming more clear on what they know, because a lot of times we're living undecided, and that causes anxiousness in and of itself when we haven't made a choice. And I think part of the things that we're seeing is people are suddenly like, oh, shoot, I need to choose, and I want to go with, I choose what's right, but that means I've got to pull my head out of my butt and start dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
And oh man, that's gross and uncomfortable and yuck. Look at what I've been adhering to. Look at my belief systems, and oh God, I got to face that. Okay. And it's not pleasant and it's not easy, but that's what we're doing.
Yeah, a lot of shadow work.
Yeah.
And I wanted to explain a couple words for people who might. Okay, so Megan mentioned something earlier. She said that we're both ones. Okay, so Megan, could you just tell people what that is briefly?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
So that's
just so you-
numerology.
Yeah.
We're one. That means when you add up the date of our birth, including the year, we add up and reduce to the number 1. And so Michelle and I, in Tarot, that means we're both sun wheel magicians. But we also connect on the number 1, which is creativity and security and inspiration and being a starter. Not necessarily being a finisher, but being a starter.
We have lots of vision.
Lots of vision. Getting those things
Lots of vision.
all the
and,
way completed can be a little bit tougher.
Yeah,
but-
we need people to help us see that stuff through, right?
Yeah.
And just while she's mentioning that birth card, the birth cards in Tarot, I did talk with Ruth Ann and Walden. I know you did too recently. And I just want to mention what's the name of their Tarot school? Is it the
Tarot School?
The Tarot School.
Or Tarot School.
Tarot, well,
Whatever.
I'm East Texas. She's Dallas, Texas. So she's a little more proper in her pronunciation, you guys. I'm East Texas. So the Tarot School.com, right? They are, I told Ruth Ann that I would definitely, as many chances as I could get, tell you that they are having a birth card class going on right now, and you can just look that up on their website. And I would love to plug that for them, because Wald had he had COVID-19, and Ruth Ann was struggling too. They live in New York City. So if y'all want to look that up, I'm going to type that in when I have a chance, but it's the tarotschool.com, and it's their birth card class, which Megan knows an awful lot about too. And so she does readings with that and everything. Also, we've had a class on that here, but I would love to tell y'all about that class. So that's what that 1 is and what number you are. So, and then on top of that, she's a Leo. So she's got a lot of that drive going on.
Alpha.
Yeah, alpha. And then I'm a, what's
You're
your,
a Cancer.
what's your moon? Do you know?
I don't know. I
Well,
know
I've
my
got it in my
first
phone.
3 houses are all in Leo.
Okay, so
I'm like such a sun worshiper.
Leo, and so so I'm Cancer Sun and Scorpio Moon, so lots of
Oh.
water.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know if that's nice. It's like, and then, I think that's right.
It's a good translation.
But that's what those are. And then there was another thing that I was going to tell us. So healings, energy work. So when we're talking about that, we're talking about you have a certain type of healing, but it evolves that you trained. But now we just call it the Megan magic, right?
I call mine base, body and soul enlightenment.
Okay, I just call it the Megan magic. So.
And yeah, it's moving energy through the body. It's very similar to your practice in many ways because we've also worked on other people at the same time in her healing circles. That's Soultopia.
Mm-hmm.
So I see Michelle and I was like, oh, okay, I check out what she does. She checks out what I do. So
I think most forms of energetic healing, I guess it's what you're channeling or where you're drawing from could change that energy. So I don't want to say they're all the same.
Oh, no, they're all different.
Because the vibration can be very different. But if you get similar vibrational energies, then I think the particulars don't make that much different, in my opinion. Okay, so if you're doing it this way or that way in whatever certificate it's called, that doesn't matter so much to me. It matters to me the energy from where it's coming from.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different names and modalities. We're all kind of stirring the same pot, so to speak. So the name isn't necessarily what you need to worry about. It's more you want to make sure you connect with the practitioner and that the energy vibe there is really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me, that's the main basis of it.
And really research your who you are going to really seek out recommendations from people you trust, mm-hmm. and before you go to energy workers, because you want to make sure that it's in alignment with that was somebody. This is my opinion anyway. Was something that you feel that's in alignment with you,
yeah,
with your energy. That's an interesting topic, though. I will throw this in the mix, though. If I knew somebody. I think I said this to you. If I knew somebody that was for sure going to heal me of, let's say, cancer, and they were a hot mess, which not all energy workers are perfect, because if you wait to be perfect to be an energy worker, you're never going to be an energy worker, in my opinion. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, really. But they were just horrible beyond people. I don't know if I knew 100% that they could cure cancer.
I feel like you have to have someone that you believe is confident and quite capable and can keep their act together,
yeah.
more or less.
I just don't know of that many that would be able to do that. But, there have been some that I could think of that have been charged for some really bad things that allegedly did some amazing healings that Oprah promoted. So it's an interesting topic.
Yep.
I mean, hey, I'll go there. It's a pretty interesting topic. And I also do believe in that you need to want to heal and want to get better, and most people do. But I also don't believe you have to 100% believe, because I remember growing up and feeling like, do I have enough faith? Do I have enough faith? Okay, oh, wait, I'm not sure if I have enough faith. And so I never know if I'm going to have enough faith in something. So I think as long as I believe, I don't need to feel like I have to conjure up the faith to be healed.
Wow.
I just need to submit to the process.
Yeah.
And surrender.
It's so interesting you said that. I was the exact opposite. Like I never doubted my relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was just a non-issue for me. Like I always felt God was with me, mm-hmm. and healing work. When I went to the first time when I received it, I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I just
I think mine was I don't
I
want to
didn't
go
grow
into
up
any
with
particular.
the level of religion that you did at my early
Yeah.
ages.
I think that can
So,
be part of it. It's just
yeah.
like always, oh, do I have the faith of what is it? The faith of a mustard seed? Is that what it was? You guys, there's a gnat on my, just going to be honest here. It's like right on my microphone. It's staring at me. And I was going to, and mosquitoes are my totem, but I don't think gnat is. But there
No,
it is.
yeah, I see
It's
it.
right there.
Okay, it's on the
hanging
back
out.
side now.
Okay. But I did put a beetle out today because remember, Matt, when we had that show where beetle was we learned that omens weren't always bad, and the word ominous isn't always bad, but if there's a beetle, you should carry it outside because that was like a superstition. Well, there was a beetle today, and I was like, okay, I'm going to carry it outside, but it better not be one of those stink beetles. And I carried it outside, and I was like, is it a stink beetle? I was using all my hand sanitizer and washing my hands all day long.
Oh, that's funny. Yes, stink bugs only, you squish them, that's when they stink.
Well, I didn't
Not
squish it. It made it outside alive, so thank goodness. So, I don't know if you guys are still on that I'm seeing, but I'm going to shout out to some of you guys. Hi, gosh, we've got a lot of people on here tonight looking. Valerie, hello. I was talking about you earlier. Were your ears burning? So we look like, how far are we in? Hi, Tyler, my son. Are you still on?
That's awesome.
So-
Hi, Tyler. I've
One
been
of-
waiting to meet you.
So one of the things we're going to talk about is some ways that you could to calm yourself down a little bit.
Hmm.
What have you been doing to do that?
I've done several things. I've done a crystal grid. I've even done that just randomly for a friend of mine, and which was an interesting experience because I don't have any formal training in grids. I know Michelle she teaches on that, and she teaches on crystals, and that's her specialty for sure. But I just intuitively laid out what I felt he needed, and coincidentally, he got an interview and a job and started dating again, all within like a week and a half. So,
That intuition worked.
yeah,
Yeah.
that intuition worked. I'm a big believer in connecting with the earth and really seeing what's happening in the ground. And I've been in my house probably 16 years. So, I've developed the landscape around there, but it's been interesting to evolve that and watch the wildlife development that's happened because I'm in an urban area. I had 2 screech owls the other night. I have 7 baby rabbits growing in my flower pot with my plants.
How big's the flower pot?
Oh, it's big. And then I noticed the soil had been turned out, and I kept putting it back in, and somebody kept kicking it out, and I felt around in there and I could feel a hole, but I didn't want to squish anything. I also didn't want to get bit if
Right.
it was a possum or something. So, but now I've been watching them grow. At first I was like, I hope they're not rats. But they're little baby bunnies. They're very sweet. I'll show you
Yeah.
a video later.
Oh.
I'll post that on my Instagram.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, so connecting with the earth and seeing the wildlife is really big for me. I meditate really regularly, like every day regularly. And that kept me going through quarantine. Exercise, huge for me. If you're a powerhouse and you've got to move, then get your energy going. That's very grounding.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, so not as much the exercise. But we did move into a townhouse that has like all these stairs. So every time I do them, I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is exercise. But
She has a great view and a
but
lot
it's-
of earth to connect with.
it's beautiful. So we have been getting out in nature a lot, right, Roger? A lot out in nature and fishing, catch and release. But it doesn't matter because I haven't caught anything. So that didn't even matter. So I posed with Lizzie's fish and then we released it.
That's awesome.
But so just really same thing. There were the geese that have had the eggs. The eggs are there. They're huge, but they still haven't hatched. There's 2 different ones in our neighborhood. So lots of getting out in nature. a lot of getting back to writing really relaxes me. Um, the candles and the grids, same as Megan. And I was telling Megan how much to just do those grids out in nature. She has this beautiful backyard. Just it's like a haven. She doesn't brag about it, but she's a master gardener, and so her garden and her backyard is just it's beautiful. It's like the Garden of Eden or something back there. It's so beautiful. So anyway, I just said, oh, just put those grids out there, man. They're just everywhere. And for me, I've been writing my book, so there was a lot of writing
Yes.
all through the quarantine period, and I felt very out of body a lot of it. I'm not gonna lie. Even though I was getting outside a lot, I didn't feel. I felt very. I felt grounded in some ways, but I felt grounded to planets, like grounded up. And I always say you can ground here, but you can also ground to where you're from, which is not from here. So you're like tug on the earth, but you're also tugging on a star. Like, so you're equally grounded between heaven and earth. I love that visual. So, but that really helped me. And honestly, just even if you weren't going somewhere, just getting out of the house, because I think people who even if you are immune compromised and you couldn't be around people at all, I really think you needed to get out of the house. And I know some people still need to get out of their house. I'm going to encourage you just to even sit on your back porch or your front porch, just please. Because I think that's that time. I'm not a doctor, but I think that's very important
We
for the
need
people
fresh air.
to get out. So that really helped me a lot. And reading, of course. Same with Megan. I read a lot, so that helped me a lot. And honestly, the candle work has helped me a lot. Lighting candles for others and making grids for others. Roger and I did meditations for how many days, Roger? A lot of days for 3 weeks straight.
Those were cool.
Thank you.
Really cool.
Yeah. So, and it just really, we just really wanted to make a commitment to doing those every single day for 3 weeks, and we did. And so that was helpful. How have you dealt, or what would be some suggestions, do you think, Megan, for dealing with anxiety? Kind of the same stuff?
Anxiety is a tough one, and everybody experiences that a little bit differently, and we see different levels of intensity with that. I don't know if it's the right crystal or not, but I tend to like amethyst for that. Is that true? Okay.
It's whatever you like. There's no right or wrong.
Okay. So I would often sleep with amethyst under my bed, just to help stabilize. For anxiety, I know this might sound simple, but different teas, calming teas I think are helpful. All of everything we've already talked about I think can be big. I know I've been working specifically with someone who has some, it's kind of, well, she just called it high anxiety, but I would really say it's PTSD from multiple car accidents. And when I did energy work on her, it was so intense. She was like violently shaking. And so I had to start kind of talking her through it. And then she immediately began to calm down and let go. And when we were done, she was like, oh my gosh, was that an exorcism? And I was like, no, you're good. And her follow-up one after that was a completely different, really just normal kind of calm session. So it kind of depends on where your anxiety levels is. But, one of our things is we tend to pick on ourselves, whether it's tweezing eyebrows or picking your fingernails and pulling your hair out. People do different anxious things. And it's like, okay, what is the core of why you're picking on yourself? And maybe it's just honoring that and doing, I think, writing about it. I think writing is so, so important to get to the heart of what your core issues are a lot of times. And then feel free, lighting a candle to let it go. All of that being important.
Too. And I think just finding something, picking up something that you thought you wouldn't want to do, or you never took time to do before, or you think you're not good at, do it. Something like that. It sounds so simple, but a lot of times we don't do stuff like this. And music is great.
Oh,
Calming
yeah,
music,
music's important.
and aromatherapy. So one of the things I guess we could challenge you guys, and I was hoping we'd have a little time for some readings because we'd have a couple people ask. I can't see the time on here.
Matt nodded. He said.
It's time.
One or two.
One or two.
Okay.
One other thing, I was just maybe a call to action for this week is just, I guess that I might give is just to maybe turn off the news if you're watching a lot of it. I know you need to stay apprised of what's going on. I understand that. But those who, if it's becoming overwhelming, just turn it off for a little while. Facebook, just turn it off for a little while. Whatever that is to you, if it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter,
Unplug.
just step away. If you really need to hear something, somebody's going to get a hold of you. Okay, just step away from that for a little while because it really is very much can fill you with a lot of anxiety, I believe.
Oh yeah, that's part of my mantra is to not get super connected. And right now, I didn't want to be completely left out, so I was plugging in. But
Yeah.
it's taken a toll.
Yeah, and some other things are the tapping, and
yeah.
so mudras, which are the hand positions, which Allison DeNicola talks a lot about. We have card decks for those that are coming in. We're getting card shipments in, but at Soultopia, but doing mantras using your prayer beads, your malas, anything like that maybe you think are that doesn't really work. It does. It will calm you down very quickly. And the affirmations that you just say over and over and over, they will calm you down. And I think those are some ways just to settle in and calm down. These ideas of doing these things, even though we repeat them and they sound like, oh, I've heard that before. But how often are people really doing them? Because if we were really, really doing them and meditating, and setting our intentions or praying or whatever you want to call that, or doing a grid, which is a form of setting intention and praying, I think that we would be in a better space. That's not a judgment. It's just towards all of us. I think that if we pick one or two of those things, we could be in a better headspace.
Absolutely.
So, and I do think that would help to heal all of us, just one person at a time. And then maybe ask another person, could I make a grid for you? Could I... set some intentions for you if you hold space for someone else if they're not able to hold it for themselves, because right now a lot of people aren't. They're not able to hold it for themselves.
And if you're not doing a grid, even just a prayer. I loved what you said about essential oils, incense, fragrance, anything that stimulates the sense of smell and music. Those are super powerful.
Yeah, and Laura said breathe in through your nose and out like through a straw. Yeah, so many of those things that we think and we take for granted because they just sound so basic.
Yeah.
Just start with the basics right now, because really that's what I think we need.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to do a couple readings. I'm just going to, I am not on YouTube right now. I apologize. I am just going to see who I come across first. If you want to go ahead and get your cards ready and say who you're using, what you're using.
I was going to read with you. Is that okay?
Okay, that's fine. Let's
Okay.
read together.
I won't turn them upside down on
Feels
you.
like I've lost I know people were watching and now they're not showing up on here because they had asked earlier. It's like
Do you want to do a
can't
collective
scroll
reading?
up. Well, a lot of people had asked and now I can't see them. How does that happen?
Can somebody repost their question? If you asked earlier, can you post again real quick, please?
It's like it won't scroll back up.
To Michelle. She's our
I know that
technology
one was,
nut.
I believe Lexi had asked. Valerie says she loves tapping. Roger, do you see any? Pardon me? Okay. Well, I'm sorry, you guys. Y'all had all asked, and now if you can ask again really quickly.
Did you say, Lexi had asked a question?
Let's do Lexi first, because I remember she was on there. There were a whole lot of them.
Well, we can just
Okay, and Laura is one who had asked, and so had Bruce. Okay, so that's 3 right there.
All right.
Okay,
So
we've got Lexi first.
We've got.
And we're just going to do them general. I'm sorry if they were specific.
Okay, we have 7 of Cups in reverse, 9 of Pentacles in reverse, and the Moon, and that's for Lexi.
Okay.
So,
if they're reversed.
I didn't even turn your cards.
Oh,
I don't
fine.
know how I did that. I'm sorry. I didn't think I.
No, they're right. So.
You can read it the other way.
No, it's fine. No, I'm thinking about the camera. It's all good.
Oh, I didn't know there was a camera right there.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's fine. So now I'm confused, but we'll turn them like this. Let's just read them straight this time.
Read them straight, yeah.
Just because of, but now it's showing the wrong way, right, Matt? Okay, it's perfect. Okay. So
go ahead if you have a thought.
No, you go ahead. I threw myself off.
So Lexi, for you, I'm feeling some insecurity about being indecisive on things, and I feel like you've got a lot of different options. But I also think that.
Actually, Lexi asked, may I interrupt you? She asked about medical intuition or mediumship. If you can.
Oh.
Okay. So go ahead with what you were doing now. You said insecurities. Maybe it's about
that. Well, I feel like I was looking at that in insecurities on maybe knowing what she wants, but I also knowing about the aspect of mediumship. I feel like you're seeking from outside of yourself when you really need to be. Those things are right there with you, and that person that you're trying to connect with is already around you, and you can touch them, but you're not trusting yourself on that. And I also feel like emotionally, there's a lot there going on, and you're still kind of in the thick of this, but I feel like you can touch it and you can see it. It's almost like you're afraid to trust your own intuition on that. Sorry.
No, I kind of got the same thing.
Okay.
I'm sorry for interrupting you during the middle of it. But it's interesting because I feel like every time I look at this 7 of Cups in this deck, and this is the Light Seers deck by Chris Ann. She's with Hay House and Hay House Publishing. And it feels to me like you're looking over at one. You've got all these options, which I know you do. You're trained in many different things. And you're kind of wondering, do I let one go to do others? They all blend for you. This is what I feel for many of us. They all come together as one. You already have medical intuition. That's where the insecurity comes in. You already have that. You already do mediumship. Mm-hmm. These things all already tie in together for you. We are just putting labels on these things, Lexi. So if you want to do more study in them, that's fine. But they all flow into one. And the more you start putting a label on each of them, the magic of it seems to flow out of it, is the way that I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. And so it's not like you have to just pick one. It's like they're all hanging together, okay, is the way I see it. And business-wise, that's how I would look at it. I wouldn't try to call it one or the other and try to put all these labels on it. And to me, that's when you're going to kind of go under with it, because you're trying to put too many labels on what you are instead of just saying, like how I said the magic of Megan, just do that. It's just Lexi, and it's your energy that you're putting into it, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. That's what I get.
And Lexi, I struggle with that whole label thing too, because, there's people who walk around and see dead people all the time, and I'm like, well, that's the medium you want to see. And I've had some great experiences as a medium, but I don't feel that that's my focus, and I don't want to disappoint anybody. So sometimes I don't list that as a skill set for myself. But it's not to say that it doesn't come up successfully for people. And I have people that really come to me for that. But don't feel like you have to have a label or that extra title on there. People will let you know what they need. And if you connect, you connect. And sometimes it doesn't matter what we're doing. Sometimes we just don't connect.
Yeah, I agree with that. And she
Okay.
says, very well said, I understand. Yeah, so let's do, we had above that, Laura says, I asked, exclamation point. So Laura, we're reading for Laura,
Okay.
and no specific question.
I swear I didn't mess up your cards, but
No, no,
they're
no.
all different directions.
No, it's fine. We can reverse. I was thinking more about the camera. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
It's all good.
All right. Did Laura have a specific
No.
question? Okay.
Do you want me to go first?
Yes, please.
Okay, so Laura, what I see for you is that you feel like you're in the spotlight about something, and you know that you have things to say, and you want to say them just the way you want to say them. So go ahead, and you're going to have some squawkers back at you. Okay, they're going to be like, and you feel like you have to be kind of sneaky about how you're saying it. And sneaky's not really the right way, but careful. Okay, careful about how you're saying it, because there's a spotlight on what you say right now. And then it's interesting because at the same time, you have some different issues going on. You're really working on a lot of things and have a lot of things that you're learning, that you're on the one hand learning, on the one hand you're teaching other people. So that seems like a completely different issue, but you're getting distracted by this issue of having a lot of spotlight on you right now. And I think you know exactly what that is. So just ignore the squawkers and just speak your truth, okay? But you are going to get spotlight on you about it. And then you just need to sit back and be protected. And I can't help but go into cord readings because of my book, but you're corded to your significant other, I believe. And I believe that's a he, and he has a lot of protection around him right now. He has a lot of wisdom, and just know that he can take care of himself too. But I know that right in the middle of everything you're trying to do, you're trying to take care of his situation a lot. That's what I get.
Interesting. Okay. And the connection for me here was the feathers falling out of the bag.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like there's something that maybe needs to be cleaned up or taken care of as well. That there's, possibly some harsh words or some dishonesty, a little bit of getting away with something, but kind of sloppily. And I don't know if this is you or the other person, but I feel like you're trying to move past this and get and focus back on the things that you're passionate about and what you strive for. And I also feel like your relationship feels like it's on the mend, and there's some healing there. It's interesting, she was talking about connecting cords, because there's literally like telephone wires, and so there is a reconnection. And I feel like, so your headspace is sort of where the drama is, but the rest of you seems pretty well put together and like going in the right direction. So we'd continue on and allow yourself some forgiveness with that Seven of Swords. Okay.
Okay. How many, Matt?
We at time?
One more?
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just going to spin it and see where it lands. And we are on the one right above it. It's going to be Erin. Michelle, I am wondering about future employment.
Okay.
Okay. And you guys, I'm sorry if we didn't get to you. We will have more of a better system next time. And y'all will know to ask ahead of time, too.
Oh.
Okay?
Okay.
We drew one of the same cards.
We did in the same
position.
Well, Erin, this is kind of interesting. So I feel like you've been putting your resume out there and you've been looking, and it's something you need to continue to do. It's interesting with this image because she has a surfboard, and so that means she needs to get in there and get after it. And the colors too are super nurturing, and I like the idea of what you might be diving into. You've got great skill sets. I feel like you're really focused on something that you really want to do this time. And I think the more that you draw your energy towards how you want to feel in this new job, that's going to help you to manifest it in this case, because you show a lot of confidence. And then, I almost feel like there is going to be a pause right before you move into this. And it's going to be good, but it's going to be, I don't know, is it a completely different direction than what she expected?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Michelle's with me on that. Yeah. Because it's like you're planning for all this, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's not where I thought I was going, but I think that will end up being even better. What are
Okay,
your
so
thoughts?
I agree with Megan on a lot of the reading. With the Three of Wands, it's interesting. It's interesting because she has this surfboard, and what I got from that, Erin, is that there is a part of you that you hide behind something. Now, please take this in a loving way. You have a crutch, and you use it often. I'll tell you my crutch. My crutch is I'm a lawyer, okay? Because I worked very hard for that. I admit it. I'm proud of it. Worked my tail off for it. But it often comes up, I'm a lawyer. I'm a this. It's not braggy. It's just something I sometimes fall back on. But I don't practice that much anymore. So there's this crutch you have. I don't know what your crutch is, but you have one. And so you have a lot of busyness going on, brilliant colors, but on one side, it's the Eight of Pentacles, but it's interesting because it seems something different to me. On one side, it's a lot of book knowledge, and on the other side, it seems a lot of practical knowledge, a lot of hands-on, so right brain, left brain. And then it seems like the last card is the Death and Rebirth. Okay, so this is a card of transmutation, a card of taking off, not just redressing it, but totally changing into something different. Like Megan said, I feel like this is going to be completely not just a different job in the same field.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Transmutation is a total change of energy. Not just a redressing of the energy, that'd be transformation, but a complete change of energy. So if you haven't been looking for something completely different, I would start looking for something completely different and stop hiding behind that thing that you can do so well, because that is not what's actually going to bring you joy and fulfillment, I don't believe.
Nice, Michelle.
In your life, okay?
Yeah.
So, all right.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us today. We are going to be back live next week, and we'll be here 7:30 every Wednesday. That's Central Standard Time. You can find us on YouTube and all of your podcast channels, and on Facebook, and
Everywhere on Facebook.
everywhere. We're going to be getting all this figured out as we move along. So keep third eye thinking.
Good night.
Good night.